From West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
At the legislature today, the Senate passes a bill on to the House that substantially rewrites the laws concerning child abuse and neglect when those cases are in court. A special report tonight on metal theft and how these thieves operate on a very sophisticated level. And County Day at the legislature puts the focus on these political subdivisions of the state. These stories just ahead on the legislature today. Good evening, I'm Beth Voorhees. The House of Delegates introduced 15 bills today. As Adam Cavalier reports, some of the recently introduced bills have been in response to headline-making news.
Taylor County Democrat Mike Mannypenny is advocating for the legalization of medical marijuana with 3 bills he introduced Friday. Mannypenny spoke to the House today to ask them to seriously consider those bills. Mannypenny says cannabis could be used for those suffering from chronic diseases such as Crohn's.
For a cost-effective treatment where many of the people that have to rely on prescription drugs that cost them $500 to $1,000 a month when they could be growing or producing their own medicine or buying it from a state-run or state-licensed dispensary. I know there's a major problem with substance abuse in West Virginia, and by no way do I want to contribute to that, because there's going to be abuse no matter what is out there. But by allowing a doctor to recommend or prescribe this to be used by their patients as they see fit is only fair.
Mannypenny cited an AARP poll where more than 70% of the respondents indicated they supported the use of medicinal marijuana.
It's been proven that cannabis isn't addictive. However, it may be habit-forming. Most things are. And so more research is done. I think that it's time that we at least take West Virginia into the 21st century and become the 17th state to legalize cannabis as a medicine for our citizens.
Putnam County Republican Brian Sevilla introduced House Bill 4500. It's named Andrea's Law after Andrea Bells, a Mason County teen who Sevilla says was killed by a drunk driver who had 21 DUIs.
I can't tell you how many times I've been contacted about this, about trying to do something for her. And I mean, just the type of person she was, she deserves this. I mean, she, sweet as can be, good student, good person, nothing to be said about bad about the girl. It was just a tragic happening that could have been prevented if we would take steps to prevent this, like I'm trying to do.
Sevilla says that means stiffening the penalty to second-degree murder.
As far as I'm concerned, you're choosing to drink, you're choosing to drive. This is a choice in killing someone. It's not vehicular manslaughter. It should not be treated as a almost misdemeanor. My intent is to get this up to possibly life. This is just like any other murder case.
While Sevilla's bill is aimed at providing stiffer penalties for causing a death while driving under the influence, Kanawha County Republican Patrick Lane has introduced House Bill 4506. Lane says the bill relates to absentee ballot voter fraud and stems from the recent election fraud case in Lincoln County.
I don't know that you can prevent anything, but I think we can send a strong message that if somebody engages in this activity, we take it very seriously, and we want to make sure that the integrity of elections is protected in West Virginia. And so we've looked very specifically at what happened in the absentee ballot cases, and we've introduced a bill that we think attacks that and provides enhanced penalties and felony penalties for a lot of those situations.
Meanwhile, Marshall County Democrat Scott Varner has introduced a natural gas severance tax bill that would send more money to the counties from where the gas came.
The purpose of the bill is similar to what we did with coal this summer. For the coal-producing counties, they get an increased percentage of the severance tax above and beyond what's normally collected at that level, at the annual level. So this would occur for gas-producing counties. And the purpose of the bill is to make sure that we give county commissions the necessary tools to do whatever development they can with other manufacturing downstream industries to, clearly make sure we're still in the hunt on jobs.
Delegates and senators have a week left to introduce bills. Crossover Day comes February 20th on the 41st day of the session. After that, only bills from the other chamber may be introduced on the floor. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Adam Cavalier in Charleston.
And the House unanimously sent 3 bills on to the Senate today. House Bill 4101 authorizes teacher-in-residence programs for certain prospective teachers in lieu of student teaching. Education Committee Chair Mary Poling says the bill will benefit both those in and out of the classroom.
It provides a better experience for prospective teachers and would help fill content area shortages in the southern counties with these teachers in residence. It will be limited to the top students in their senior year who have completed the requirements for certification except for student teaching. They must also be issued a teacher in residence permit by the state superintendent of schools. The salary and benefit costs for the positions filled by these teachers in residence would be used to help finance the program in the counties.
The other bills passed are House Bill 4122, which creates alternative programs for teacher education, and House Bill 4012, which removes the Commissioner of the Bureau for Public Health from certain boards. The state superintendent of schools would be able to issue a teaching certificate to volunteer teachers under a bill passing the Senate today. Senate Bill 404 allows attorneys to receive a barrister's teaching certificate if they would like to teach a class about constitutional law or other legal issues. It was one of 4 bills to pass unanimously today. Teens facing charges of using alcohol would not go to jail under a bill passing the Senate today.
Senate Bill 409 deals with underage folks who use a fake ID to purchase alcohol, and also underage possession, consumption, sale, service, or purchase of alcohol. Current law requires a fine of up to $500 and/or imprisonment of up to 72 hours. This bill would change that to a fine of up to $500 and community service up to 72 hours rather than imprisonment. I urge passage of the bill.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted?
And more professionals would be eligible to serve on the parole board that determines when adult offenders can be released from custody and integrated back into society.
Current law requires a criminal justice degree or like experience or training. This bill would substantially broaden the potential people who could serve on the parole board to include people with at least a bachelor degree from an accredited college or university and at least 5 years of experience in the field of penology, corrections, law enforcement, sociology, law education, psychology, social work, medicine, or a combination thereof. I urge passage of the bill.
Senate Bill 484 rewrites key sections of the code relating to child abuse and neglect cases. As Senator Ron Stallings explained, the bill makes necessary amendments to the West Virginia Code for compliance with federal law or consistency with the West Virginia Rules of Procedure for Child Abuse and Neglect Proceedings, or the Rules of Juvenile Procedure.
It's basically a 2-year work product of the Supreme Court and the DHHR. It adds the definition of court-appointed special advocate program. It updates multidisciplinary teams by separating out abuse and neglect and status offender matters, and also adds healthcare professionals, mental health professionals, and educator to the multidisciplinary teams. It provides that an order that places a child outside of the state must contain specific findings as to why the out-of-state placement was in the child's best interest. It limits the priority given to family placement in instances when the family member is a registered sex offender.
All of these bills now head to the House for further consideration. In a moment, a special report on metal theft. We'll go inside a vacant manufacturing facility in the Eastern Panhandle that was ravaged by thieves. First, here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the Senate today and what the Senate will be considering tomorrow. Among the bills introduced in the Senate today, Senate Bill 573 to move the licensing of cosmetology and barber schools and instructors from the Professional Licensing Board to the West Virginia Higher Education Policy Commission, the same as other occupational and vocational schools. And Senate Bill 579 to continue and reimpose the special reclamation tax on coal. It increases the rate from 14.4 cents to 27.9 cents per ton of surfaced mine coal for the Special Reclamation Water Trust Fund. Among the bills up for passage in the Senate tomorrow, Senate Bill 156 to allow the Commissioner of the Division of Corrections to use excess funds from the Correctional Industries account to offset operational costs of the division. Senate Bill 166 to make it a felony to disarm or attempt to disarm a corrections officer. Senate Bill 186 to provide salary equity supplement payments to teachers and service personnel in order to achieve salary equity among the state's counties. Senate Bill 208 repealing the Telecommunications Tax Act. Senate Bill 411 to make it unlawful to willfully and knowingly sell, purchase, install, transfer, or possess any automated sales suppression device or zapper or phantomware on electronic cash registers. Such devices modify sales purchases with the intention of tax fraud. And House Bill 4291 to authorize the Supreme Court of Appeals to determine which county law libraries are being used and should be continued as an obligation of the state. Among the bills on second reading in the Senate, Senate Bill 75 to create the Equine Rescue Facilities Act and require these facilities to be licensed by the Commissioner of Agriculture. Senate Bill 164 to deter frivolous, malicious, or harassing lawsuits by prisoners with a life sentence. Senate Bill 379 to authorize the West Virginia Board of Examiners of Registered Professional Nurses to designate programs in which nurses may be monitored while they pursue treatment and recovery for alcohol abuse, chemical dependency, or major mental illness, and in which these persons may voluntarily enroll without being subject to disciplinary action if the person complies with the goals and restrictions of the program. Senate Bill 390, Governor Tomlin's bill to increase the funding amount from 13% to 15% for the Rainy Day Fund and dedicate a portion of the revenue to the state's Medicaid program and infrastructure modernization. And Senate Bill 408, providing for jail time for the intentional defacement of public or private property with graffiti. A few years ago, an old school bell that decorated the South Hills area of Charleston was stolen. It weighed hundreds of pounds, but the thief managed to get it in the bed of a truck in the dark of night. The historic bell was cut up and sold for scrap metal. The thieves were eventually caught and convicted, but the bell is gone for good. It's clear that metal theft is a major problem in West Virginia. People have died trying to steal wire from power poles or had to be rescued after entering abandoned coal mines to steal the metal inside. Two bills introduced this session seek to increase the penalties for these thefts. Senate Bill 528 requires scrap metal dealers to gain more information from those selling metal or face penalties. Senate Bill 212 makes it a criminal offense to disrupt emergency communications, since thieves target telephone lines for valuable copper wire. Both have been sponsored by Senator Herb Snyder of Jefferson County. Cecilia Mason takes a look at how metal thefts affect communities.
Ernie's Salvage Yard. Ernie's Salvage Yard is a full-service recycling center in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We recycle all types of metals and all types of cars here.
Ernie's is one of many places across the state that accepts scrap metal. The business takes in between 500 and 1,000 cars and 2 to 3 million pounds of scrap metal a month. Co-owner Benjamin Zindler says it's a place where thieves try to unload ill-gotten goods.
Some guy was running around picking up water heaters, and he was bringing them in here as scrap. They literally found this guy. He was running around picking up water heaters from this one store and bringing them right over to us. Now, it's impossible for me to tell where a water heater comes from. And we can only ask the questions. Now, if a guy comes in with 100 water heaters a day, well, we have to ask, where are you getting 100 water heaters a day? And if they don't give us an answer that's acceptable, we just don't want to buy it.
Ernie's scans customers' driver's licenses into a computer and makes them sign paperwork swearing they own whatever they bring in. All transactions are recorded on video cameras that document who comes into the yard and what materials they're bringing. Zindler says his business is happy to hand suspicious documents over to law enforcement when asked. Metal prices are up, running from 15 cents to almost $3 a pound. Jefferson County Sheriff Bobby Shirley says that makes stealing metal more worthwhile.
Well, I think it's a combination of the economy with no jobs out here and also the drug addiction that these younger people are on. And it's the only way they can support it because most of them don't have jobs to support their habit. And then if they did, the more they use the drugs, the more expensive the habit gets. So what they were making, paying for the drugs, now is not keeping up to the pace of what it takes to get them as high as where they want to be. So then they go into stealing. It goes on and on and on like this through here.
One case Shirley's office solved involved the theft of copper and pipe from this abandoned manufacturing plant in southern Jefferson County. The building is 7 acres under roof and provided thieves with plenty to steal.
This is the aftermath of when they cut the copper pipe out. So you actually go back up in under and cut the copper water pipes out. And this is the insulation that went over it. As you can see, all of this tubing here, probably miles of it, had copper wire coming down into it to these big breakers. And as you can see, all the copper wire is gone. Everything, and see here, see right here where they're all cut off. These are the ends of it. As you can see, every piece of it's been cut off with wire cutters or bolt cutters in some sort. When these people came and we arrested them, we caught them in the act, we set it up and had video. It was a job to them. They came with monitor hats, they had 5-gallon buckets of tools, they had the come-alongs, they had carts to cart the copper out. They came with the intent that they had bottled water with them, that they were going to stay for a while.
Shirley estimates the thieves took about $12,000 worth of copper, but did about $700,000 worth of damage to the building. There are now private security guards watching the plant 24 hours a day. Because copper brings the best price, it's more popular to steal. The U.S. Department of Energy estimates copper theft costs the national economy about $1 billion a year. Copper is used in most electric and phone lines, so when thieves cut active lines, it adversely impacts anyone on the other end. Paul Espinoza says it's been a problem all over the state for Frontier Communications and not just in areas served by copper wiring.
Unfortunately, in some cases, when the thieves are attempting to steal copper facilities, we've had cases where they'll cut a section of cable thinking that it's copper and that they're going to be able to utilize that for a quick sale. It turns out that it's fiber optic cable, and unfortunately the impact is still the same. It disrupts our services, and in some cases it actually is more disruptive because of the high capacity nature of fiber optic cable.
Frontier, along with law enforcement, would like to see stronger laws to prevent thieves from unloading scrap metal at places like Ernie's. Some ideas include requiring sellers to provide better identification, making scrap yards hold material for a period of time, and not allowing cash payments for metal. The owners of Ernie's say some of the proposed changes are unfair and not workable. They prefer to see better enforcement of the existing laws. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Cecilia Mason in Martinsburg.
Senator Snyder's bills regarding metal theft have been referred to the Senate Judiciary Committee. So far, no movement on either one. Now here's a look at some of the bills introduced in the House today and a look at what the House of Delegates will consider tomorrow. Among the bills introduced in the House today, House Bill 4499 to provide a source of funding for infrastructure projects in those counties that produce natural gas from the Marcellus or Utica shale formations. The bill sets a baseline of tax collections at $64.8 million from oil and gas. House Bill 4500, Andrea's Law, to increase penalties for causing death or injury while driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. House Bill 4503, to clarify that persons possessing a legal firearm may carry it at the state capitol complex. House Bill 4505, to better clarify the distinction between hunters and shooters in the field. It would allow shooters who are in possession of a firearm in or near the woods to not have to possess a valid hunting license. House Bill 4506, to provide for a new felony offense of absentee ballot fraud. There are no bills up for passage in the House tomorrow. Among the bills on second reading, the amendment stage, House Bill 4104, to authorize professional licensing boards to exempt persons who have been continuously licensed for 20 years or more from continuing education requirements. House Bill 4345, to prohibit the unauthorized sale of railroad scrap metal. And House Bill 4390, to create the Uniform Power of Attorney Act and to repeal the Uniform Durable Power of Attorney Act. So how do people get the attention of the legislature? Some write or telephone, some form picket lines. And each year, people from about 20 counties comes to the state capitol to make their issues known. As Bob Brunner reports, those making the effort say it's worth it.
A cold winter day at the state capitol, but under the dome at midday, the lilting rhythms of the Caribbean. These are 8th graders from Frankfort Middle School in Mineral County, more than 180 miles from Charleston. They're here as part of Mineral County Day at the legislature, joined by citizens from the area with something to say to their lawmakers. Among them, a veterinarian who's a member of the county commission. He says this effort really pays off.
I find it very advantageous to meet with the development office people and the Department of Transportation. When I was the mayor of the town of Ridgely, we had some road issues, and it made all the difference in the world to come down here with some of the citizens of the town and explain the problems we were having. And it made a real voice, and it brought attention to the issue and came and addressed it, which was great.
Lawmakers and state officials are also invited to a special luncheon prepared by the culinary students from Potomac State College. There are salads and sandwiches and even a creamy lobster bisque. Lawmakers, staffers, even Secretary of State Natalie Tennant come by after the aroma of the food wafts their way. The provost of Potomac State says this is a way to make his institution visible under the Capitol dome.
For us at Potomac State College, this is a tremendous opportunity for the college to engage with the Mineral County community. It's also an opportunity for us to showcase our academic programs, and our students, our hospitality students are here today preparing a meal for the legislators and delegates and representatives here at the Capitol. And they really shine for us, gives the folks here an opportunity to see the quality students that we have and the fine job that they do for us. It's also an opportunity for us to tell folks what the needs are in Mineral County.
These are Potomac State students. They're not only getting a good recommendation from the legislature, they're feeding them. And that's one way to the legislature's heart. More than 20 counties and a dozen associations plan days at the legislature, sometimes filling hallways with displays, sometimes organizing groups of citizens to buttonhole specific lawmakers, and every now and then to serenade them. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Bob Brunner in Charleston.
This has been the Legislature Today. We welcome your comments. You can email us at feedback@wvpubcast.org or address your letters to the Legislature Today, West Virginia Public Broadcasting, 600 Capitol Street, Charleston, West Virginia, 25301. I'm Beth Voorhees. Thanks for joining us. Good night.